Hey guys, my name is Anthony, and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you my track guide at Austria. I did a stream yesterday and I just wanted to quickly say thank you guys so much for tuning into the stream. It really does mean a lot to me. So getting straight into it, what we're going to do is we're going to do a slow lap around here just so I can give you braking points and stuff like that. Then I'll take you on a hot lap, which is something I want to talk about at the end of the video, and then I will show you the setup. So yeah, there will be sort of timestamps along the player and in the description below if you want to skip to a certain part of the video, so you can do that there. So getting straight into it, you can see now we're at the final corner of Austria, and you may have noticed that I've got the car parked out on the outside of the track, and that's because you want to take as much track as you possibly can in order to get the best line through this final corner, because I believe this final corner has been changed since the last one, and it actually is a little bit tighter than it was in F1 2019. So you want to be in about 6th or 7th gear at this point. And then just before this grey patch, I'll probably zoom in post-production, just before this grey patch on the left-hand side, you want to brake in a straight line, and then as you get to the grey patch, you want to sort of start turning in towards a corner in 5th or 4th gear, depending on how you feel. You can run a little bit wide there, but don't run too wide. Open up DRS, and then we've got the start-finish line straight, going up to turn 1, which is an actual uphill. And when it comes to uphill braking, it means that you can actually brake later because you're going uphill, the gravity is sort of pulling the car, meaning that you can slow down a little bit quicker. So you want to be on the outside of the track. Even in the race, you can actually be on the outside of the track here. And because it's uphill, usually you probably need to brake at the 100-meter board. If you dare, you can actually brake slightly later than the 100-meter board just because it's uphill. So you want to brake in. You want to be in 5th gear and then one last downshift into 4th. Cut this corner. You do want to ride over it, however, don't ride over it too much or else you will get an invalidation or a time penalty. You can run a little bit wide here, but not too wide. In real life, you can actually have the entire car off the track at this point. However, in the game you can't. You open up DRS and then you go down here. You've got turn 2, which is not really a turn, but it's still counted as a turn. And then you're coming up to turn 3, which is another uphill brake, but this time you pretty much want to brake at the 100-meter board or the black box if the 100-meter board has been damaged. Brake in a straight line. You can run over the curb, but I personally don't feel comfortable with it. Brake down into 2nd gear or 1st if you need to get the car rotated enough. Try not to go on the curb on exit. Put the barrel down as quickly as you can. You do want a short shift there because it is a low speed corner, so you will not have the downforce needed. And then coming up to this corner now, turn 4, this is a downhill brake, which means you actually need to brake earlier than you usually would. So in F1 2019, I do believe you could brake just after the 100-meter board, but in this game you need to brake either at the 100-meter board, or if your brake pressure and front brake bias are not as far forward, you need to brake slightly before the 100-meter board just so that you could get the car slowed down just before the corner here. Now there's a few ways to take this corner. Personally, the second way for me is the way that I've found the most time in time trial. So the first way is by actually riding over the curb and getting the curb to help rotate the car. However, for me personally, just about touching the curb but not riding over it has actually found me the most time personally. But I know that some of the top guys, they would, have some of the car over the curbs just to get the car rotated. On exit, you don't want to touch the curb on the left hand side, or else you will lose time. And then coming up to these two fast speed corners now, I tend to brake. I'm in 7th gear or 6th gear. I brake just after the 50-meter board, get the car turned in 5th gear or 4th gear, depending on how much the car can turn in for you, and come out wide here. Then you want to do a tap on the brake. You don't want to brake a lot, you just want to do a quick tap on the brake, and then in 5th gear if you can get the car rotated, in 4th if you can't, try and ride over this curb so that the car can rotate, and then you just power through. Then you're coming up to, in my opinion, the two, other than the hairpin, the two most difficult corners to get right on the track, because you can lose quite a lot of time here even if you think you got it right. So it's one of those corners where it's pretty annoying. But what I tend to do is I tend to ride over this curb even during the race, brake just before the 50-meter board into 6th or 7th depending on my setup, which I'll explain later. Ride over that curb, then come out here, go wide just like we did before, brake just before the grey patch, into 5th gear or 4th gear, and come out a little bit wide if you can, open up DRS, and that is a lap of Austria. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now play the hot lap that's in the title of this video, and then we'll sort of talk about the setup portion, which is where I'll sort of talk about what I wanted to talk about at the beginning of this video. So I'll see you guys at the setup. Okay, hey guys, so here we are now, we're at the setup portion of the video, and because of what happened when I did the hot lap, because of the setup that I was using when I did the hot lap, I thought that this would be a good opportunity to show you guys the main differences between a race setup and a setup built for time trials, because in that hot lap that you just seen, I did use a setup built for time trials to do that. However, I do have a setup for the race that I will be showcasing you guys. So first off, we'll take a look at this setup, which is 3/6 wings, which I'm not going to lie to you guys, the race setup is pretty much the exact same wings. And then you've got 50/60 on the throttle transmission. And then you've got -270, -150, 0.05 and 0.26 for the suspension geometry. And then this is sort of where the main differences lie. As you can see with the time trial setup, it is pretty crazy. 1.9 on the suspension, 1.11 on the anti-roll bar, and 2.4 ride height. Then 150 on the brake pressure and front brake bias. And then as you can see, the tires are pretty much as soft as they can be. So yeah, as I said, the main differences lie within the suspension, the brakes, again that's subjective, the geometry, and there's a little bit of a difference between the transmissions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now load up my actual setup for the race, and we'll see the difference. So as you can see, it's still 3/6 wings. If we go to the transmission, that actually should be 55. I'm not sure why it was at 50. I must have accidentally changed it. But 55/60 on the transmission. 50/60 can work, honestly. It's just I have 55/60. Then as you can see for the suspension geometry, it's a little bit different. -270, -140 for the camber. Then we've got 0.06 and 0.29. I think this works pretty well for me in the race. And then for the suspension, as you can see, very, very different to the time trial one. And that's because with time trial, you don't get tire wear, you don't get, you know, a loss of grip unless you're really pushing the car and stuff like that. So you can afford to really sort of go beyond what you usually would for a good race setup, because I mean you're only doing a single lap usually, whereas in a race obviously you could be doing up to, you know, 70 laps around here depending on what the race distance is. So the front suspension is 2.4. I think this is pretty good. You do want to have some softness to the suspension, especially since you are potentially going to be riding over a lot of curbs on this track. And for the anti-roll bar, I've gone 5.8. This is pretty good. It's a pretty good balance for me personally, in between having stiffness for the straight line speed and softness for the traction and, you know, just being able to get out of corners and stuff. And then for the ride height, we've gone 1.3. You probably could go 2.4. Again, this is just for some of the more aggressive curbs on the track, but I think 1.3 works okay. I would recommend 2.4 as well, so if 1.3 is not to your liking, 2.4 is pretty good. For the brakes, there is a lot of straight line braking, So because of that, I've gone with a higher front brake bias at 54 and then 95. 95 to 100, anywhere between there for me is pretty good. Again, it's subjective to you and the brakes that you have. I personally have the T3PA plastic pedals. And then for the tires, I've gone 23, 22.6, 21.5 and 20.7. That's pretty much going to be it for the setup portion. Now when it comes to the hot lap in this series, if you guys are still here watching the video, I want to know if you guys want me to continue adding the hot lap portion. It is valuable in a sense where it shows you how a lap should look in real time, but at the same time I'm not sure if you guys really want to see the hot laps from me, so let me know in the comment section if you do. But I'm going to end the video here, so if you liked this type of video, then make sure to hit the like button and sticking around by subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 550 subscribers, which is mind-boggling to me that so many of you guys have found my content worth subscribing to, but you have, so thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in my next video.